Project Boro is now available as a podcast on your chosen podcast providers, so you can listen to every episode on the go. Simply go to the description of this video, click the link to the podcast provider of your choice, and subscribe or follow Project Boro, and you'll be able to find all episodes past, present and future right there for you to listen to on the go. Another away game, another 3 goals conceded, and unfortunately for Boro, another game where we come away with nothing.
As the Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
What is up, guys? Matthew here, and welcome back to another episode of Project Boro. And I think we may have just witnessed one of the craziest games of the season, especially the first half. Boro went to Elland Road in a game that, just given how both teams set up, how both teams play, how open they are going forward, especially how open they are on the transition going both ways, I think in every preview and fan prediction and podcast that I listen to, every Boro and Leeds fan, I think, foreseen that this game was not going to be 0-0. It was going to be rather open. It was going to be pretty end-to-end. There were going to be chances galore, and it was going to be a little bit mad. And it might come down to who made the least number of individual errors and who had their finishing boots on. And in a very frustrating but maybe expected outcome, Leeds United edged Boro in this game, and it was once again down to a brief period of chaos within the game where Boro conceded multiple goals, one after the other, like they did against Bristol City last week and have done numerous times. But also, Leeds had a helping hand from Boro conceding a really sloppy penalty. And then in the second half, when we were still in the game and could have quite easily gotten a goal back and come away with something, we have a really, really naive sending off, which essentially makes this task 1,000 times harder than it already was. And yet we still almost came away with something from this game. I mean, we are the most, not infuriating, but frustrating yet fascinating yet bonkers team I think I've ever seen, because it's so weird trying to sum up Boro right now, because there is no getting away from the fact that we are incredibly entertaining to watch, and I would not have us any other way. I would much rather Boro be a free-flowing, entertaining, crazy team where things just happen all the time. We're so good going forward, we're scoring goals and creating chances, but equally at the back, it's absolute madness. And there's a couple of perspectives, I guess, you can approach this result from. I mean, Boro have went to a relegated Premier League team who are fighting for automatic promotion. I think are unbeaten in their last 10 home games now, winning 8 of them. And we have went there with a team who is, I think, patched up is an understatement. Our list of injuries is absolutely crazy. So this is extremely far away from what a fully fit and firing Boro squad would look like. And yet, we've come away on the narrow wrong end of this result, and on another day could have quite easily come away with something. So that in itself has got to be a positive. And you do wonder the potential of this Boro team and how exciting that prospect is. But at the same time, it's 3 away games in a row where we've conceded 3 goals in each of them. And half of them goals have got to be of our own doing once again. So there are a number of ways you can look at this result. There's a number of ways you can look at Boro right now. We are just a nearly team. You know, we're just so nearly there with so many aspects of our game. And I feel like with just a couple of tiny additions and tweaks, and if the squad's up to full fitness, then I do have a lot of excitement for this Boro team, but at the moment it is just a little bit chaotic, a little bit all over the place, and a little bit mad. So let's try and sum up what happened in this game, because there were 3 goals in the opening 7 minutes, and Boro scored and took the lead in the 3rd minute, and it was a unbelievably well worked goal. I honestly was sat back and I couldn't believe if I was watching Boro or Barcelona. I mean, Leeds' press is so aggressive and so impressive, pardon the pun. They, were really pressing our defence hard, and the way we played the ball out from the back, and I don't think the highlights will do it justice because I can only play certain small clips to not get copyrighted, hence why for some reason Preston game in midweek didn't have any clips in it. Hopefully I can get them working and you'll be able to see the goals today. But anyway, the way Boro played out from the back was extremely impressive. We got Bangura free on that left hand side, he played in Bad The Lath, and let me tell you, we saw the epitome of everything good and bad about Emmanuel Bad The Lath in this game, and I'll obviously speak about him when we go through the Boro team. But in this instant, he brought the ball down, he took it on his left, cut in on his right foot, and he thundered a brilliant finish past Meslier into the corner, and it was dreamland for Boro. The perfect start, 1-0 up at Elland Road, 3 minutes gone, and we looked absolutely on it. Too bad 4 minutes later we'd be behind, because literally Leeds went up the other end, and this sums up Boro right now, from the sublime to the absolute ridiculous. A ball is crossed in from the left hand side, and you've got Dan James at the back post, who must be 5'6" at the very most. He's a small player. He's up against both Alex Bangura and Paddy McNair, and he manages to get his head on the end of the cross, despite them both being there challenging, and he heads into the bottom corner. Dan James is a very good player, and he can do a lot of things. He's very quick, he's very pacey, he's a threat going forward, and he's fantastic when it comes to being creative. But you cannot allow him to outjump 2 Boro defenders and score a header. That for me is unforgivable, and is the sort of goal that I don't think any other side would concede other than Boro right now, and that instantly gets Leeds back into the game, level playing field, and this is what has happened. It happened last season. I remember the Huddersfield game where we let in 3 goals straight after the second half, I think against Bristol City. Last season it happened either side of half time, it happened again last week. Boro still have these periods in them where we just lose all composure, and the game just goes mad, and the opposition puts 2 or 3 past us, and we go from a position of control to a position of just madness in minutes, and instantly Leeds went 2-1 up, again within minutes of equalising, and it was Somerville this time as a cross come in from the right hand side. This time McNair headed it on, and Somerville outjumps Dykesteel, who quite frankly was on his heels and just wasn't anticipating what was about to happen. And Somerville, who is one of the form players and one of the best players in the league, got his head on the end of the cross and put Leeds 2-1 up. And that sums up the first half for me, because it continued to be absolutely bonkers. I mean, the number of chances both sides created in that first half was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a football match, and the word basketball game is a descriptive word that some people say about a football match. It's like a basketball match end to end, and it can be sometimes. It can be untrue. It sometimes, is a little bit of an over-exaggeration. But this literally was the example of an open-ended basketball game where they had so many chances. Seny Dieng kept us in the game with some incredible goalkeeping at times, but equally, Boro could have been level. Crooks had a chance. What he put over? Lath must have had 2 or 3, which he should have done better from, one of which, and I don't think it'll be in the highlights, the ball was played back to him. I think he was just behind or in and around the penalty spot, and he gets it on target, he scores, and he puts it literally. You could have put a goal on top of the goal, and it'd have still gone over. And that sums up Emmanuel Bad The Lath, and he could have had a hat-trick within the first half an hour, but equally Leeds could have had 3-4 in the first half. The first half could have ended any scoreline that you could have possibly come up with. But Leeds did extend their lead on the 38th minute, and it come from a penalty. And a really unfortunate turn of events for Boro because, as you guys know, our injury list is ridiculous at the moment, especially at the back, where we are down to bare bones, and I'll list Boro's injuries once I get down to the team. But Paddy McNair went off with a back injury. He was having a pretty horrendous game by that point anyway. He was getting run ragged. And Matt Clark come on, and listen, Matt Clark, it's a great story to see him back after 18 months out, and throwing him into a game like this so early in his return was always going to be tough. But the penalty he conceded was a really, really sloppy one. Now, there was an argument to say that the referee played the advantage to Leeds after the tackle was made, and Somerville, I think it was Somerville, who took the advantage, obviously took a shot straight into Senny's arm. So there's an argument to suggest that Leeds had their advantage. They didn't make the most of their advantage, but despite Dieng saving Somerville's shot, the referee brought it back for the challenge anyway, and essentially Matt Clark brought down Somerville on the edge of the area by tackling him and hanging out a leg, but Somerville kept going and continued to get his shot off, but Matt Clark pulled his leg essentially with his arm to try and pull him down. It was a bit cynical, a bit unnecessary. We obviously then went on to see that Somerville, who went down, took a shot which was saved. So I don't think if Clark had done that they would have scored, but unfortunately it conceded a penalty and Joe Perreault put away a very, very well taken penalty, and suddenly it was 3-1. And I was fearing the worst at that point. I really, really was. I thought this could get ugly, just due to the number of chances both sides are creating, and you always expect with Leeds' extra bit of quality, they're going to probably edge Boro in a game like this. And I thought Boro going head-to-head with Leeds in this open, expansive, attacking game was very brave, and I think was probably going to backfire on us. But we actually got ourselves back into the game just before half-time, and I know it's freezing in the UK right now, but hell really did freeze over because Boro scored from a set piece and a corner again. Literally, we are set piece specialists all of a sudden. The second game in a row, Boro scored directly from a corner. Barlasser again with the delivery. Bad The Lath got the header, and I mean, it sums him up. You know, literally, he'd missed about 3 or 4 chances before that, could have had a hat-trick. He does get his second here with a fantastic header, and somehow, despite this absolutely crazy half of football, Boro go in, 1 goal down, and it's 3-2, and it's game on, essentially, in the second half. And although the second half didn't quite follow the same chaotic end-to-end, you know, and it wasn't as intense and as crazy as the first half, both sides still very much were counter-attacking on one another, forcing saves out of each other's goalkeepers. I mean, if I was to go through every chance, we'd be here all day. But a big, big, big potential turning point came for Boro, and it was in the middle of the second half. I believe it was the 63rd minute. Anthony Dijksteel got himself sent off for a second bookable offence. Now, it is worth mentioning, the first was never a booking in the first place. Somerville ran beyond Dijksteel. Dijksteel didn't touch him. Dijksteel was just running in line, didn't put an arm out, didn't stick a leg out. Somerville just ran past Dijksteel on the counter and went down. Barely any contact, and because he'd have been in on goal, the referee booked Dijksteel for it. So I don't think he should have been on a yellow at this point anyway. But to be on a yellow and to make the tackle that he did is very naive and careless, and sums up some of the issues with the Boro players we have. And I guess some of the players like Dijksteel, who will have an amazing game like he did against Preston, but I think this is the reason why Carrick often prefers Tommy Smith, and when Smith's not in, Rav was playing there. Dijksteel just has these careless moments where he loses his composure and, you know, makes a really big mistake. It happened last season against Rotherham where he was sent off, albeit it wasn't a last man tackle that day, but it was a careless tackle, which did lead to Boro taking nothing away from the game essentially. And it's happened again today. Really, really poor, you know, unnecessary tackle on, I think, Dan James it might have been. You know, he's not in a dangerous position, he's not in on goal, there's plenty of Boro players around him. Dijksteel just throws a leg out, and it's definitely a yellow card. So as much as he shouldn't have been on a booking at that point anyway, you know, you don't do that when you are on a yellow card, and, you know, instantly puts Boro on the back foot, 3-2 down, a man down as well, and you think, our chances of getting anything from this game are gone. But the game continued in exactly the same pattern. It didn't really change, despite us being a man down. They still had chances. I mean, Rutter was played in. Senny made an incredible save, but Rutter really should have saved the 1v1. And the biggest chance Boro had was at the other end when Silvera put a cross in, which was deflected. It hit the post. And then Morgan Rogers, who had an open goal to aim at, had his shot blocked by Rodon. So, you know what? Equally, Leeds could have got a fourth, but Boro quite easily could have gotten an equaliser despite being a man down. And I do wonder if we might have nicked something if we had kept 11 men on the pitch. Overall, this was an absolutely crazy game, and I think the difference was Boro made crucial individual errors at times, gifting Leeds a penalty, making it easy for them to get their 2 opening goals, especially the James one, and the sending off put us on the back foot. So the only way I can sum up this game is that there was definitely something there for Boro, which is a positive, going to Elland Road, a team in form, especially with Boro having literally a patched up, bare bones squad. The fact that we were very much in with a chance of getting something from this game is a massive positive, but essentially we've made it harder for ourselves once again. We've shot ourselves in the foot once again, and that's what's allowed Leeds to come away with the 3 points. So looking at the Boro team then, Seny Dieng was in goal. I do believe he was at fault a little bit for what happened leading up to their penalty. I've seen a few fans say that he played a pretty sloppy ball out, which put us in trouble. I missed it, so I didn't quite see it. But, yep, Seny probably was a little bit to blame for what led up to the penalty, but equally, I lost count of how many saves he made in this game. And, no doubt, without Seny Dieng, the scoreline would have looked a lot better for Leeds and a lot worse for Boro. They had 9 shots on target, an XG of 3.35. Seny Dieng definitely helped keep the score down, and once again, did well. It's just a shame that what happens in front of him continues to make him look worse than he actually is. Bangura did well on the left-hand side, I think, given the intensity of the game, the pace of it, and the quality of play he was going up against. He did really well. Obviously, he got himself an assist as well for the Lath goal, which was good to see. McNair went off early. His injury is a concern. He was having a pretty bad game up until that point, to be honest, but Matt Clark did come on and he conceded the penalty, and I think he'll be very disappointed with that. But given the pace of the game, I think coming back from an injury like that, I think Clark did well. But McNair had a shocker up until that point, and I will get onto the injury list shortly. Rav was one of our better players in defence. I think he looked incredibly composed, made some very good challenges at times, and did not look out of place in this game. Really showed how good of a centre-back he is. And then Dijksteel at right-back. You know what? Wasn't having a bad game. I think he did struggle up against Somerville at times, but really let himself down with that second booking. And made Boro's life a lot easier than it should have been. A lot harder than it should have been, should I say. In midfield, it was a tough game. I think we did well in spells today. Barlasser was pretty neat and tidy on the ball, but did lose possession a few times. Got a good assist for, obviously, Lath's header with a very well-placed corner. Howson was kind of here or there, really. Looked good in moments. Just had a sort of average game, I guess you could say. And then the front three in behind Lath. Yeah, they did all right today. I think without being anything too special. I think Jones was a threat down the right-hand side. Didn't get as involved as he normally would. You could say the same for Crooks, who looked neat and tidy. Was very good in possession once again. But, as I said about Jones, didn't really impact the game too much, but looked good in moments. And the same could go for Morgan Rogers as well. There's not much else to say about the three in behind Bad The Lath, but they did well without having the goal contributions that they have had in recent games. And then Emmanuel Bad The Lath. We saw the epitome of Bad The Lath in this game. He gets himself a brace. He takes both of his goals unbelievably well, but equally, he could have had 3. He could have had 4. He probably could have had 5. So, you're frustrated that he didn't get the goals that he should have, but you're also happy that he took the goals he did. And, you just don't know what to expect from Bad The Lath. From one week to another, I'm happy he scored a brace here. But on another day, with the chances Boro create, he should have a hell of a lot more. As for Boro's substitute, as I said earlier, Clark, he'll be disappointed with his penalty. He did okay, given the fact he's just come back from injury. Coburn and Silvera Didn't affect the game too much, although Silvera's cross did hit the post, as I mentioned. Gilbert and Engel come on later in the game, didn't have much chance to affect it. And this was the start and momentum, so as you can see, just up and down, very, very spiky for both sides. And then the second half, once Dyke still got himself sent off, it was a lot more Leeds United. And it was frustrating because you see, Boro had a little bit of momentum up until Dyke Steele sending off, and then it was a lot tougher after that for us. But we still had the chances. And yeah, as I mentioned, on another day, without that red card, who knows what might have happened. Leeds had the possession as you'd maybe expect in a game like this, but yeah, this maybe looks better on Seny Dieng and maybe not as much on Leeds' finishing, but they had an XG of 3.35. 20 shots, 9 on target, 5 big chances and 3 big chances missed. So I'm praising Boro for still being in the game second half and saying that on another day we might have nicked something from it. There is also just as strong of an argument to say that if Leeds had their shooting boots on, Boro could have conceded 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 today, which yeah, is a little bit damning on our defence, but we play an open, expansive style of football, and when teams like Leeds are playing against us, we are going to have to ride our luck a little bit and hope they don't take their chances, because if they did, listen, we'd be talking about a very different game in a very different tone, essentially. But Leeds were wasteful. Luckily for them, it didn't cost them. Boro equally had chances, though. Not as much of an XG. We overperformed it slightly today, but we still had 11 shots. We still had 5 on target. We still had 3 big chances, and we still missed 3 big chances. So, shoe on the other foot. On another day, would Leeds have been punished for being wasteful if Boro had took their chances? This is what I mean. This game really was a flip of a coin, essentially. So, Boro end up on the losing side. And this is how we are looking going into the next game, which is at home to Ipswich, no doubt, who are second at home next week. So Dale Fry, centre-back, injured. Hayden Hackney, centre of midfield, probably our best player at the moment, injured. Paddy McNair went off today with a back injury, injured. Isaiah Jones is suspended for the Ipswich game, having now got 5 yellow cards. Dyke Steele suspended with his red card, of course. Riley McGree, he's been injured for a hell of a long time now. We have no idea when he's going to be back. Same could be said for Marcus Force. He's been out for a long time with an injury that we don't know anything about, but there's no sign of him coming back anytime soon. You've got Darrell Lenihan, who's out for the season with, I believe, an Achilles problem. And then you've got Tommy Smith, who's out as well. Can't quite remember the exact injury he has. But yeah, that is Boro down to the bare bones against Ipswich next week. And that is 10 senior players who could potentially start all out for the Ipswich game. So good luck to Michael Carrick picking a fit and ready back four for the Ipswich game. That's all I'm going to say. Luckily for us, the table, not much damage done. The top 4 have all just took off into another realm, essentially all winning this weekend. I think it's safe to say the top 4 will remain as is, and there are possibly 2 playoff spots to fight for, which are going to be competed by. From West Brom, you could go all the way down to potentially Bristol City, Borough, maybe Norwich, possibly. But luckily for us, the 4 sides between 5th and 8th all lost this weekend, with West Brom, Hull, Blackburn and Preston all losing. Sunderland picked up a point. Watford were the only big winners, really, with Cardiff losing 2. So Borough remain in 12th and still 3 points off of the playoffs. So no damage done, essentially, in terms of what's happened elsewhere. Looking ahead, as I mentioned, Ipswich at home. Now, if we were going to Portman Road, I'd be quite frankly terrified by the injuries we have and the form of both sides. But at home, Borough seem to be a different side. We are equally as creative, but we seem to not concede as much when we are at home. I mean, look at the list of injuries. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Ipswich have been a little bit leaky at the back and haven't been as bulletproof away from home. So I do still back Borough to get something from this game. We mustn't underestimate Ipswich. We mustn't underestimate the incredible start they've had. But I think if there is a chance of picking up points against the Tractor Boys, it's when they're on the road. But it will be a test for Borough, undoubtedly. And I'm hoping magically we'll get some of our star players back. I tell you what I didn't mention. Lewis O'Brien, of course, he's another one who's injured, who's been out since the start of the season. So then, I'm hoping with some optimism, McGree or Force might return to the squad. Hackney or Fry might reappear with us having a week between games. But obviously Dykesdale, he's out. Who plays at right back? Maybe Rav. Does that mean that Clark has to come in at centre-back, but then who replaces McNair? And it's an absolute mess. If Rav has to move to right back, I don't know who plays in between the centre-back positions, and I'm guessing Bangura and Engel might be fit at left-back, which is good, but then you've got House in the midfield, does Hackney come in, Barlasser might have to remain, who comes in on the right, maybe Silvera for Isaiah Jones, who the hell knows, but I am confident Boro can still get something from the Ipswich game. A win would be amazing, of course, but I do have to stress that we're still playing alright, and we are so far from a fully fit and firing Boro squad, so I'm still excited for the potential of this team, and I'm still excited to see what the season may bring. We just have to get through this busy period, pick up the points we can, try and stay within sight of the playoffs, and get as many players back as possible. But that's it for today's episode of Project Boro. A bonkers game once again. Here's hoping things calm down and Boro pick up a result next weekend as our next home game. And our next game in the Championship is next Saturday, 3 p.m. at home to Ipswich Town. But if you've enjoyed this video, guys, do hit the like button and subscribe for much more. We do an episode of Project Boro after every Boro game, of course. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you do prefer to listen to these videos on the go, these are available on all podcast providers, so subscribe to me over there or here on YouTube if you haven't already, and hit the bell too so you never miss when a video drops. And other than that, leave me a comment in the section below if you're a Boro fan, Leeds fan or a neutral with your thoughts on the performance and the team right now. And we're back next week to hopefully be reviewing a win at home to Ipswich Town. But until then, take care guys, a big thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.